Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. I'm Biola Labi, and with me is Victoria Peppel today. In today's society, digital credit should be accessible for everyone. Our next guest is here to share how Minds, a fintech startup reinventing credit in emerging markets, is opening up an entirely new revenue opportunity and helping customers previously ignored by available credit systems. With nearly 20 years of experience in the mobile telecommunications business, Adia Sowho serves as the managing director for Nigeria at Minds, leading the organization in driving value for banks, mobile operators, payment processors, and retailers in emerging markets by enabling digital credit products for their customers. Adia, welcome to the morning show.
Morning, ladies. Thank
It's
you.
so good to see you.
Good to see you, girl.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
So you guys are making headlines. You're everywhere. You've raised $13 million.
We have.
Which is one of the highest a Nigerian-based fintech company has made. I know you're global, but I want to sort of focus on the Nigeria element of that. Tell us sort of, first of all, how do you guys feel? Because I mean, raising money is one of the hardest things. Anyone that says it's easy has never done it. So tell us a little bit about that process and where you are today and how you guys are feeling.
Thank you. It's a great question. I think it wasn't easy, like you said. I mean, I think because of our environment, it's tough to convince people that don't live here that you have a value proposition, that you have a viable business, that you will get a return on your investment. So that usually takes a little bit longer for us founders, based on the founders and management teams, based on the continent. But in the end, you get there eventually, and you have a good product.
You know, one of the things that we had a financial analyst here last week, and we were talking about different things. And also, if you look at an interview that Mr. Atido Peterside conducted, we're just talking about the global investment community and just some of the things that have been happening lately on the ground in Nigeria, and how people, so there are these officers from the DSS, the police, they just sort of go and lock the National Assembly, but there's sort of a sense of, there's an absence of a sense of globally the optics of what that says. And so you're in the middle of raising funds. All these news is coming out about Nigeria. Are you trying to like grab newspapers before investors can see them in the morning?
No, I think all we're trying to do, like you said, is that there is a need for a positive Africa-driven story. So I think we're just doing our part, you know, we're trying to play our part in doing that. That's it, pretty much.
So what do the investors buy when you're trying to sell Nigeria and pull in much needed funds? How do you sell Nigeria? I know we have a huge population.
Well, there you go. Yeah, start with that.
So there's a huge market here. I know that the talent here is unrivaled, unfortunately, even though, you know, the opportunities are not there. So what do you say about Nigeria?
So I mean, like, let's talk a little bit about the opportunity and the problem that we chose to solve at Minds, right? So basically, if you're an individual and you go into the supermarket in an emerging market versus a supermarket in a developed country, right? In a developed country, you might need some things. You don't quite have all the money to get them, you know, just yet. But then you have an opportunity to use some credit facility. That credit facility could come to you from a bunch of sources: your bank, your retailer, your telecom company, right? So that's available in developed markets, and that's how you build a middle class, by offering them credit. Now, our challenge in Nigeria, Africa, emerging markets...
In most places, except for South Africa. Really.
Right. So is that these credit facilities are just not available. And that's partly because in order to offer credit, you need to profile your customer. In order to profile your customer, you need data on them. So our data sources, we have them. They just don't fit the traditional mold that's being used in developed markets.
Has the BVN helped?
Absolutely, it has. The BVN has helped. The SIM registration has helped. So these are two key initiatives that most fintechs in Nigeria, if we're, you know, honest about it, are built on, right?
So I think that's really, those are such huge opportunities to also expand on, which is basically how crucial it is for the government and for policy to create an environment that is enabling.
Absolutely.
So in getting more specific, what data points are you using and how are you using technology to actually do credit assessment?
Okay, so this is the techie bit, right?
Yes.
So
we're ready, guys. They're going to do techie stuff, so let's pay attention.
So we use AI and machine learning, right? So the founders of the company, Dr. Ekechi Nwoka and Dr. Kunle Olukotun, are both computer engineers, computer scientists, right? Kunle is actually also a professor at Stanford University, one of the most renowned places where many Silicon Valley startups, you know, come out from, right? So the tech is lit. Can I say lit?
Yes,
Alicia?
yes.
The tech is lit, right? So I think what they were able to do, Ekechi also used to work at Amazon and built, you know, supercomputers for AWS. So I mean, these guys have a deep understanding of how to apply technology, right? So being that, you know, they are Nigerian, they wanted to come back and try to solve a real problem that had a lot of impact here. So, I mean, there's all that. I won't bore you with all the details of how an algorithm works, but you saw an algorithm makes a determination on what information is actually important. Now, it may defy conventional thinking, right? But at least the machine is able to look at massive data sets, right? And in the blink of an eye, make a determination on how much is safe to sort of borrow to a person that they will most likely pay back, which is it's a very sort of complex but critical question in your ability to provide
So
finance.
when somebody has a business plan,
Yes.
and it costs so much to carry out that business, then you tell them that this is the safe amount to give you, which isn't even up to what the person needs for that business. How are you helping that person?
Okay.
How does the person come out of that situation?
Good question, right? So this is why identity systems, addressing systems in developed markets start from the day you're born. So they're already using a massive, every interaction, every sort of data point that you create throughout your life is used to make a credit decision about you, right? So the conversation has to start from somewhere, right? And you will start with an amount that may not necessarily meet your needs, but the goal then is to continue to enhance your digital footprint so that information is available. So specifically to the business that you talked about, right? It's tough to credit risk a business when, you know, you cannot see their transactions. If all of these are carried out in cash, you know, and all of these are sort of carried out in paper. So these have to be digitized. And when these transactions are digitized, they can then be fed into algorithms like ours in order for us to make a decision. So one of the advantages of our software is that we go and meet our partners, so banks, retailers, and telcos, who have big pools of data. And we say, look, let us process your data. A traditional sort of developed market credit system might not be able to ingest it, but we can because we understand the local realities of functioning in an emerging market. So when you have data, it becomes easier to make that decision. So the next thing now is to sort of educate the market into collecting the data into a form that allows one to make a credit decision on their behalf.
So Adia, I want to ask you, and I want to take us back to the opportunities that this platform has for including people that normally wouldn't be included in the system. So I think that for you to take a business plan somewhere, you actually already have some knowledge and you're asking for credit. But if you're sitting in a rural area, you're a farmer, what type of data points are going to be helpful for this person to start to think about that can be inputted into the system to actually make them credit worthy in the future? What data points are you using?
So for instance, I'll share some numbers. So there are roughly 30 million BVNs in Nigeria, but there are just over 90 million people that have mobile phones. So your mobile phone already starts to create a bit of a data footprint for you, right? It just shows, first of all, how much you top up, who you call, you know, the regularity with which you top up, and so on and so forth. So not that those specifically are the only things that we use.
But they're very critical.
But they are critical, and they provide a lot of information about who one is dealing with. But I think when you start the conversation in this environment with, look, if I know this about you, I can give you a loan. It's a way to sort of invite more people into financial inclusion. And that's
but if my neighbor is saying to you, like, you know, Dad, this person is a good person, is there a way for you to put that in there? Do I get a point for being a good person?
There actually is.
So, if I say, look, she loaned 5,000 naira from me and she paid it back on time. Is there a way for us to get that data point in there?
Yes, there is actually. Strangely enough. So I think there is a medium for people to recommend friends.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, that actually then sort of acts as a reference point. So if the person doesn't necessarily sit within the available data footprint that we have today through our partners, there is a way for someone else to
whoever
recommend.
makes the recommendation.
No, you should. Right. Yeah. Sure.
Now you talked about your site talks about increasing customer acquisition by lowering costs.
Yes.
Now tell us about that.
Okay. So the great thing about our platform is that it's the same basic tenets of lending, right? So those fundamentals haven't changed. All we've done is just sort of recreate them with technology in mind.
So just for people that do understand other types of credit systems. Can you just give people an example of like, so the type of things that you're going to be able to allow your partners to do is give credit cards, give line of credit, housing, so mortgages, like this can open market, the mortgage market in Nigeria, like just sort of helping people build that data.
I think mortgages will come in the future.
Of course,
we started with a very simple sort of, quick loan, short periods, So I think, yeah, we will eventually get to like installment loans and mortgages and so on and so forth. But back to your question. So for instance, now, if you look at a bank can only serve people that can possibly physically come into the bank, have an account, have a conversation. That's when you can do your KYC, you can do your checks, and you can sort of get information, get their pay slips, right? So someone that's, even 1 or 2 steps removed from a big city or a fixed branch within a bank network is now, challenged when it comes to getting credit. But you see, because our access point, or one of our many access points, is through the mobile phone. Once you have a phone, you can access one of our partners through the technology and the processes that we've created. And it's pretty quick, too.
What are you doing to increase mobile phones penetration in the market? Because, less than 50% of Nigerians actually have smartphones. So does that affect the people that you reach, the number of people you reach?
I'm so glad you brought that up. No smartphone is needed to access.
Yeah, you can use USSD phones.
You can use USSD.
Interesting.
You can actually even get a loan. Our technology is flexible enough to sort of go through USSD, go through the web, go through ATMs, go through POS. I mean, we can.
And then what's really great is because the SIMs are registered. So how do you, when you look at sort of your partners and how you're going to be working with institutions and banks, how do you think this is going to radically change the access to credit in Nigeria?
Well, our vision for this is pretty big.
Tell us.
But we can't.
We like people with big visions.
I mean, it's already the stories that we're hearing from our partners' customers are very touching, right? These are people that they have small businesses, but they've finally got a nice, quick, easy, private way to get financing to make their businesses bigger.
And what is the cycle of repayment now?
Right now, it's a 14-day loan.
Oh, wow.
Right now, it's a 14-day loan. So it's pretty quick. But surprisingly, to most people anyway, not to us, right, we found that 14 days is enough. But there are actually means for you to get an extension. So if you're getting up to 14 days, knowing the realities, of Nigeria, right? Sometimes money doesn't come, you don't get paid on time, right? We actually have the means for you to come in, request an extension for the loan, and then we grant that. So sometimes that's 2 weeks, sometimes that's an additional 30 days. It just depends on the situation and the partner that we're working with and the needs of their customers.
I mean, sometimes some small businesses also want to extend credit to their customers, and with a 14-day loan, you can extend a 7-day credit. So it's really like, it's sort of a nice cycle. Exactly. What is your repayment rate right now?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I can't get into specifics, obviously. Yeah, but it's pretty good. Yeah. It was good enough for us to convince investors to give us the money that they did. Right? So it's pretty good. And because it's an algorithm, right? It's driven by an algorithm, I should say. We're on a path of continuous improvement. So we hope for it to get even better.
So in helping individuals grow their businesses in Nigeria, obviously you have a long-term plan, you have a short-term plan. And things seem to be going so well for you. You've raised so much money. You're putting money in the pockets of many Nigerians. What is the next plan? Where do you see Nigeria growing to with all of this?
We're barely done with where we've started. I mean, we've only processed 1 million loans. There are 100 million adults in Nigeria.
How many do you plan on processing?
As many as want to be processed. and so this is one of the reasons that we have to work with partners. We alone, we're not a lender, right? But there are sort of pools of customers and pools of funds sitting with our partners ready to support them in lending to these 100 million adults, right? So we're here to support them with our technology in meeting that goal.
As you look at the future of the financial sector in Nigeria, do you see us getting to a place where people will start to have their own credit score, actually be able to use that to go into a bank and say, look, I have been credited by Minds, and this is, how do we see, I mean, how far off are we with this?
Not too far at all. No? I don't think we're too far at all. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we're working with banks, is so that conversation starts to, become possible in the very near future. So fingers crossed, I mean, that's why we're sort of out here, talking to people and just, making our presence known is so that we can continue to build out this ecosystem of lending, and support Nigeria and emerging markets growth. Yeah.
And so that people can also want to be mine credited in the future.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Adia. We're going to have you back on a panel to talk more about the ecosystem around fintech, around creating an enabling environment for Nigeria and Africa to lead one of the fintech revolutions that's happening.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for being
here.
Thank you. Once again, good luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. You're doing so well for many Nigerians out there.
Thank you so much.
All right, now time for a short break. Nicole Yembra, CFO of Venture Garden Group, is joining us next. Don't go away.
So with the panel.